Well, this is the final third session, and we have two papers. One is to be presented by Charles and Anna, and second one again by Poland, so Powell and Thomas. And the third paper is to be presented in the next workshop because it's a KIEP's paper. So without further ado, we can start. Each paper 10 to 15 minutes, and then remaining time we could have some for further discussion and management meeting. Okay, Anna and Charles, could you start?
Can I start, Charles, or do you want to start? Okay, all right. So this paper is focused on the EU and what the geopolitical shift actually means for the EU's foreign policy role. And that, I mean, that the geopolitical shift poses problems, especially on the identity level for the EU. It's obvious. The EU has seen itself as a normative actor for a long time, although it might not always have been, conducting itself in a normative way. That sort of phrase, or that sort of, let's say, terminology or term for describing itself caught on very much within the EU institutions and was used then. And of course, the EU has tried to support the multilateral system and a number of sort of liberal norms and so on. So that's a very obvious sort of focus for us, what that shift, the geopolitical shift will mean for its own understanding. And because it has now declared, at least the Commission has declared, that it's going to be, acting in a with more attention to the geopolitical shift in the world, then it means that somehow its foreign policy role will also have to shift. So that is kind of, let's say, that's where we start from, and where we will spend some time also sort of trying to assess what it means for the constitutive part of this idea of being a normative power. And then, of course, we'll try to link it to foreign policy activities such as the EU-Asia connectivity strategy. And then what we also will try to do, and I would just mention it briefly, and maybe Charles would like to say something else about that, is that we'll try to link this idea of global leadership that the EU has developed in the area of climate change, but that we are seeing, there is an idea, or there is an emerging term or terminology and understanding of the EU as a global leader in other programmatic global agendas. And if the EU is able to, to sort of broaden its leadership in the climate area to, for instance, sustainability more general, that we can see in the Agenda 2030 and the global sustainability goals and so on, that could also bring to bear on the way in which it interacts with actors in Asia, not least with the actors it has association agreements or strategic partnerships with, and so on. So that is still, Charles is an expert on EU climate leadership, and our article is about that. But here, as I see it, we can actually try to take that concept and bring it into the EU's and connected them to what the EU actually will become in terms of a foreign policy actor in the geopolitical context. Will it at all be able to exercise leadership, in which areas and in what forms or modalities? So that would be the more, let's say, the more empirical part of the paper. And that is, I think that could be quite interesting to look into. So I will stop here.
So I think Anna did a nice job. I'd just add that I think this hopefully will be a nice empirical counterpoint, or not a counterpoint, but a complement to the introductory chapter that Anna and Sebastian are writing. And if you look at some of the policy statements or things that different EU officials say, it's quite clear that they see this connectivity strategy as a way to further their global strategy and as a way of pursuing a broader EU policy goals. And you can see many DGs, for example, are working on connectivity strategy. And then I also see a very similar type of language and leadership, especially this leading by example idea, particularly when I look at some of the things like Franz Timmermans met with Singapore in July. They have this working group with Central Asia for green recovery. And you sort of see these connectivity goals and the specific things they're trying to achieve being reproduced in these different areas. I think the digital area is another one. There's a whole list of things. So I'll stop there. Thank you, Anna. Nice job summarizing.
Well, I think that indeed, as Charles has said, if we managed, I mean, if we can, the first chapter and this one can complement each other. And that would be very very relevant and very good. I was thinking that the EU-Japan relationship here is also very empirically very relevant, right? Because in their connectivity partnership, they stated that they're going to develop third countries markets as well. So when you were referring to Central Asia and the EU and Singapore's cooperation, then possibly EU and Japan could also be an additional example, which showcases the kind of third market or third actor approach.
I think that's a great suggestion, and I think we mentioned that in the abstract, and I probably should have highlighted it more.
Okay, excellent.
But I agree with you that really is, I think, probably the relationship where the EU has found its most like-minded partner in Japan. So I think you're dead on there.
India as well.
One goal of this paper, and that's something I don't know if it's possible yet, is actually to try to conceive a new type of leadership for the EU, because it's quite clearly it can't be a leader in the sense of telling others what to do, not even in the normative dimension any longer. So it needs to find other ways of exercising a kind of leadership, and a kind of leadership that, at least to partners, is much more inclusive and much more open-minded, and with countries that are rivals like China, at least in certain domains, then it has to be much more assertive, actually taking a stance for itself and its own interests. So that kind of sort of duality would be very interesting in let's say, in developing and exploring also from the leadership type literature. And there I've seen that there are some new literature when it comes to climate change, international climate change policy, where at least from the European perspective, they try to say that the EU is trying to have some sort of programmatic leadership style in certain areas, or modalities in certain areas. And whether that's the case or not could be very interesting in looking into. And in that case, what would that leadership approach actually entail, and how would it look? I think that could be interesting to explore. We don't hear you. Sorry.
I didn't hear the last thing you said, Anna. Could you repeat that?
Oh,
Sung, I didn't hear.
oh, I'm sorry for that because I was muted. Thank you very much. Excellent. I was telling you. Thank you. Excellent. Good idea. Okay. Finally, we can move on to Powell and Thomas about the interregional production network.
Yes, thank you, Sung-Hoon. Well, the concept of the article hasn't changed from our last meeting. We are on the that stage of working on it. So probably you've seen the draft I sent you. So there is a theoretical concept of global value chains described. Oh, you can hear the bell at our university. So noon and 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. we can hear something like that. Anthem, right?
It's now noon time?
Yes.
Noon,
yes.
right? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yeah, the concept of global value chains was described, and more or less it's finished. Then we described the method of the analysis. So we showed how this gross export can be divided into smaller pieces. So it is also described how we approach to the analysis. And we calculated some areas of our interest. This is the tiny part of that. So we concentrated on EU and Asian specialization in global value add chains. So I don't know if I should go into details, but you are talking about some backward and forward participation ratios. So backward participation is the share of imported inputs in gross exports of the country. And forward participation is part of domestic value add in a country's export, which is then further exported by other countries. And it is not included in the final demand in these economies. So basing on these two indices, we calculated some data, and we have some more some results on that. So if we compare, for example, the involvement of Asian here in Asian, it was meant by Asean because it was quite simple to get this data. So ASEAN and European Union countries in global value chains, based on this backward and forward participation indicators, we have some conclusions. The first one is that degree of both indices for ASEAN countries was much higher than for the European Union. So especially in the case of backward integration, and the results here shows that the ratio exceeds more or less 15%. It depends on the year. So it means that Asian economies are much more specialized in production of final goods, final products, than components and intermediate goods. So it's the first one. The second is that both economies from Asia and from European Union are highly diversified in terms of backward and forward participation or integration in the value chains. There are some small countries that are much more involved here, like in Europe, it's Luxembourg with the ratio of almost 70%, but there are some other countries of Central Europe, like Hungary, Slovakia. So we've calculated the ratios for them, and we show that in the paper. So I won't go into details because it's a very detailed probably analysis. And then, of course, we have some results on the further questions we are thinking about. So if we analyze the changes in this forward and backward integration indicators, we can identify certain specific trends. While in this forward participation, the direction and strength of changes in Asian and European cases are broadly consistent. The backward integration showed some significant differences. So again, we have some detailed result here, and not to be too much boring, the last thing I would like to address here is, and interesting for us from our perspective, is that mutual importance of EU and Asia in their position that is occupied in global value chains is interesting, because, for example, in the case of Asia, the share of components from the European Union in Asian gross export, so it means backward participation rate, range from 1.8% up to, it was for Japan, up to 2.4% for Korea. So it is relatively low share of that. So it means that the export of Asian countries is much more, or involves much more the input from other Asian countries, not necessarily from the European Union. And quite similar results we can indicate for an opposite direction of changes. So as you can see in the table, and the end of the draft is table where you can see some data on that. But still, this preliminary data we are working on, and yes, there is some calculations we need to do, and this is why we skipped for the moment the description, like literature review, which is of course will be of course included here, but also we have some other issues to calculate and to analyze, which can be, for example, geographical structure and trade value add terms between the European Union and Asia. So yes, I'm aware that this article will be more specific, I would say. So we will calculate it, but I think it will be quite nice to complete this connectivity in economic area between European Union and Asia. To some extent, of course, we should remember, and we've been talking about this last time, we have some limitations of the database. So as for Asia, we've got, I think, 14 countries in the database. So it won't be entire Asia, but yeah, some of the most important countries. And by the way, of course, some countries, only certain countries are involved in those value chains in Asia, and of course in Europe. So yeah, it's interesting to show and to see how it works between Europe and Asia, but we should be aware also that those value chains are much more developed regionally, so in Asia and in Europe, for example. But on the other hand, this is interesting research questions, how it works between the regions. So I think it will be value add to our monograph to show that, because there are not that much articles, papers on that. So I think it will be good. So yes, I think this is the situation, how it looks like with our second article. Yeah, so thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. This article is actually quite overlapping with what Professor Yoon does. He is also expert on this input-output analysis, value-added, trade in value-added, and things like that. Seung-hwan, do you have any comments?
Nothing special. You did a good job, and I'm looking forward to reading your full paper. But I think it's a pretty much long the contents. If you do all of that, but good.
Thank you.
I have one or two suggestions, Powell. I found this paper and especially the outcome very interesting. To make probably the outcome a little bit more meaningful and colorful, number one, I have a suggestion to compare the Asian data, Asia-Europe data with Asia-US data, if possible. If the calculation is not so complicated, putting US as a reference to European Union from Asia's perspective, how this connectivity was developing over the last 10 years or 15, 20 years. That's my recommendation, suggestion. If the calculation is not so complicated.
I think it's possible because we've got US in the database, so it won't be.
And number two suggestion may be to have, because the WIOD database is released quite late, right? So that 2015 may be the latest one.
Yes.
Right. But discussion missing here, in my perspective, is the US-China trade war. How this has influenced or impacted the EU-Asia trade relations with value added. So you may have some insight about that, or you may do some additional research on it and then add it to this discussion, right? So some paragraph or some subchapter or so. One section could be devoted to this discussion, how the 3-year, 4-year trade war between US and China might have impacted the EU-Asia trade relations.
Okay, thank you for this suggestion. So if it should be done, I think we should also include like pandemic. That
pandemic
disrupted this value chains also. So yes, if we want to, make it more current, let's say, just indicate some factors influencing that. Yeah, but
so only if it's doable.
Yeah, I think we can devote one part of that.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Another idea is this year I'm doing a small research project for a Korean think tank about 25 years of Asean and the future scenario of Asia-Europe meeting. And if it could be also quite meaningful if we probably do start our observation from 1995. 1995, because 1996 we started the ISM, and then 2020 we have 25th anniversary, and how this has developed could be also giving some meaningful policy dimension to this paper. But if it's doable, probably expand it to this period. But it's up to you, because it's already meaningful, right?
Yes, yes, it is. As for the data, I think it can be a problem, because there are some data from 1995, but they are not similar to the newer data.
Right. Okay.
So it won't be probably you know, done good with you know, comparison possibilities and so on. So yeah, we'll check and we'll think about how to maybe tackle that.
Okay, thanks. Any other further comments, Sebastian?
I was also thinking of the pandemic, and obviously the question is whether you have enough data, but nevertheless, it would be, as it has already been mentioned, it would be very good to include at least a subparagraph, a sub chapter on that, because for the whole book, it's necessary that we refer to the impact of COVID-19. Otherwise, we miss an essential element. So when you draft the introduction, you should be in a position to come up with a general statement about the impact of COVID-19 on EU-Asia relations and refer to the different chapters.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that this book, that volume, is about COVID-19, but we should be able to refer to it and come up with a couple of claims and value assumptions at least.
That's okay. Thank you. Good point.
Yes, thank you, Sebastian. Good point. And I think I mentioned, you know, Professor Park mentioned about the trade war, US-China trade war, and I add also pandemic, because these are more current, you know, issues that are very important. So yes, we'll include it. Right.
And obviously, this is linked to the issue of decoupling, right? So here we have one concept that helps to bridge the different findings made in all our chapters, for instance, could be.
Good, very nice. So we all look forward to having the final draft, and then with this final draft, we like to have our last workshop before we have the international conference. So the timing of the next workshop, what do you think is most appropriate and most timely? We thought from Korea, end of November or beginning of December. Would it be good to have at least the final draft of each paper? Any idea, any suggestion? Or we could do, its original plan is having that in November, Sunghan.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's also no problem if we have it in January.
January.
After Christmas break. And so the middle of January.
Or maybe even a bit earlier.
And earlier.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have it in January. I support that.
Yes.
Because December is always so crowded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
December is crowded, and also we have Christmas break and so on. So you should have a family gatherings and so on. The second week of January also.
Yes.
So right after the Christmas holiday. Seungwan, is it problem?
No, sir. It's good.
It's good.
Second week of January, from January 10th to 14th.
Just a moment.
Okay. What about the others? Power. What do you think?
We all have a vacation, right, in January.
Yes, but it's not a problem for us. It can be 10th, for example. On Monday, it will be probably better than the other day of the week.
Provisionally, 10th of January.
Yes.
Okay. So completing the final draft of papers. Okay.
So personal meeting is out of the question, huh?
Personal meeting, if it's
in presence.
It depends.
if it's possible. Would it be possible? I mean, if it's possible, let's do that.
We hope.
Because we have been saving all the travel money. Yeah, we have to use that. So
Although, but if the project is extended as Lei Hui suggested, then I understand that parts of the travel money that would be then relocated to costs for personnel, right?
Personnel costs. I will discuss that with the process.
Yes.
And as soon as possible, I will get the outcome of that discussion, and we'll try our best. But for the last 3 workshops, we did not use any money for that, right? So it's
exactly
tens or 20 thousands of euros, and we could do that, but only if the situation improves, right?
Yeah, of course.
So let's be open to this possibility as well, right? To meet in person. If we meet in person, I think best is to meet in Singapore. It's warm, not cold, right? And also 80% plus are vaccinated there, so that we feel a little bit more safe than in any other places. But we have to see and observe very carefully how things are developing. But it's a good idea, Sebastian. I mean, meeting in person. We have met only once.
Exactly. Once. And luckily we did, right?
We did, luckily, right?
If we had waited 1 month or 2 months,
and then probably would not have been possible.
If we consider, or if we try to meet in person, and well, then January 10th is very practically is I mean, we just come back from Christmas holidays, right?
Yeah.
That could be a bit difficult for some of us.
Right. For Europe, you are in the semester, right? That's right.
Well, not necessarily the semester, but I mean that we can. But we start on the 10th of January.
Yeah.
So,
What date do you suggest?
well, I reckon a week later would
Week
provide us
later
with
is okay.
better,
Yeah.
with the better opportunity to
Yeah.
fly if it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, from my side, I mean, we have vacation, January, February, full full month, right? So that we
Yeah,
have
that's good.
some flexible time plan. So Europeans, you decide, and then we can follow.
So much for
It's a bit
leadership.
difficult to say for the moment.
Yeah, it's,
I mean, I would have more clarity about teaching and so on in maybe 2-3 weeks.
okay.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So then during that time, I will communicate with Brussels for extension of the project. If the project is extended, then we could meet some months later as well, right?
It would be good.
Right. So we will have a new basis for reconsideration of the time plan as well, if we
Okay.
have get the project extended. So
Yeah.
let us discuss again. But
Yeah.
provisionally, January 17, temporarily, we decide on that date for our virtual next virtual meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, if it's extended, right, then we could, we as you indicated, then we have a much better chance to meet in person as well, right?
Yes,
Because
yes, yes.
If we meet in let's say March, April,
Yeah.
the situation should be ceteris paribus. I mean, without a new mutant and so on, but
Yeah.
it should be much safer.
Mm. I think so. Right. So let's see, and let's wait and see.
Yeah.
And let's wait for the discussion of mine with the Brussels people.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So next the virtual meeting, if it's temporary, is it the January 10th or 17th? Usually we talk about the January 10th.
17th we have we prefer the 17th, not 10th, because the 10th is just after the Christmas break, so that 17th would be better. We discussed. So if you do not have other topics to discuss, finally, we have some management meeting for 5 to 10 minutes. Sungan, it's what you wanted to discuss?
I got two things. First about the junior research fellowship. There should be a total of 20 papers, and the 6 papers have been done and 14 to go. And Korea's already almost done, and then Professor Park is currently reviewing. And I'll let you know soon that I'm going to upload 2 papers onto the Dropbox, and then if you read it and then give me feedbacks, any comments or suggestions, then if it's done, then I will grant to each of the PhD students. And then I got a message from Power, and then you have 1 is almost done, and 2 is currently is doing.
That's
and
good.
1 is going to give you a proposals within this year, right? And that's what I understood. And then Germany is almost done with 1 more student. And if you have any more students, you can willing to do that.
Yeah, we have actually, I mean, as I said before, but we have 2 papers that have been drafted, but that's still, and 1 has been worked on again. So we have 2 for that we will provide, and yes, thinking of an additional one or two as well. So I understand that if we need 20, and how much are still I mean, how many papers are still needed?
So if you provide 2 more students, that'll be better. 2 more
Yeah,
students.
of course.
But
And then,
we have still 4 slots left. That is
4.
Singapore. But Singapore, as you know, is that you already read the email. She's pretty much occupied with other, businesses.
it's okay.
We can help her out. So if it's possible, you can do more.
Okay,
Yeah.
but 4 slots, I mean, that is, after all, that's pretty good, isn't it? I mean, if only 4 slots are still vacant, so to speak, I mean, that should, I mean,
That's not bad. Yes.
manageable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Sweden almost already finished 1 and currently are doing 2 and then 1 more left. That's what I understand.
Oh, that's good.
Your
So in total 4 papers from Uppsala.
Uppsala.
We did 1, and then I have another one for
Yes.
sure, and then 2 slots are still open, and we're still looking.
Okay.
I think
good.
also if we extend the project, then I think in this case we can probably find someone or
Yeah.
few people. I mean, the only problem we have is at the department, not very many students actually, on the master and PhD level work on Asia.
All right.
But I mean, we're looking elsewhere as well, because we also have an affiliation to the Swedish Institute of International Affairs, and they are very good on Asia.
Yes, please do that. Yeah.
We do.
And
Good.
let's say, in terms of the progress, please let me know if anything happens, so I can manage that. And then
Sure.
Germany, if you want to help out, and then you can have more slots in the.
Okay, thank you.
We'll see about that. And
Yeah.
then finally, about timesheet. Everybody submits a timesheet except for 1 at the Singapore. I like to talk to her about it, but she's gone around. And the Sweden, I received your signature on paper. That is okay, but electronic signature is better. As if possible, please send me your electronic signature so I can use your signature on the Excel sheet, and then I'm going to have to make a copy to submit it as a supporting documents after this project is finished. And
You are talking to Anna?
Anna and Charles. Charles,
Uh-huh.
you forgot to send me your signature.
So you can bring your electronic signature to the paper and then make a PDF that nobody can copy it. Then we can use it for documentation to be submitted to the European Commission. That is.
Do that today.
Okay, that is the important piece
Thanks.
of the supporting documents I have to submit to the commission.
Signature coming up.
Okay.
Good. Any other things to discuss? If
Well,
not,
I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously there is one thing that we might discuss also afterwards. So
yes,
Hun,
let's
when
remain
we-
5
when we
minutes.
talk- Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, let's have some 5-minute extra
yeah,
discussion,
okay.
right?
Yeah. Okay.
So Sweden did 2 papers. Thank you very much. Power did 2 papers. Thank you very much. And everybody, Sebastian and also Sebastian did also 2 papers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And Yorlevi was presenting her paper. Thank you also. So I will check in our all interests. I mean, extending the project by 1 year or so would be advisable, so that we have opportunities for instance, to explore Marie Curie University and Uppsala as well. So let's see, right? And I will try my best to have that extended. And let's meet at the latest in January, right? Virtually or in warm city like Singapore. Thank you.
We have to
And
ask
bye. Yeah.
Professor Park. We have to ask her, the Singapore, Dr. Li Wei, if she's not available at the time. It's technically possible.
We have to make her available. Thanks a lot.
Okay,
Thank
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Nice to see everyone. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Keep safe. Keep safe.
Hi, everyone. Nice seeing all of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yes.
Take
Bye.
care of yourself. Stay away from the COVID.